Hello and welcome to Elevated Mindset. Have you ever found yourself staring at your textbooks like they're written in ancient hieroglyphics, while your brain feels like it's wrapped in cotton candy? Yeah, me too. And if you think willpower is going to save you, I've got some news that might blow your mind. Here's something wild that happened to me last week. I was sitting in the library, coffee in hand, ready to tackle organic chemistry. But instead of studying, I spent 3 hours watching TikToks about studying. The irony wasn't lost on me. But here's the kicker. That embarrassing moment actually led me down a rabbit hole of neuroscience research that completely changed how I think about student motivation. Today, we're diving deep into the psychology behind why your brain sometimes feels like it's working against you, and more importantly, the science-backed strategies that actually work to flip that script. No more generic productivity lists or motivational fluff. We're talking real neuroscience, real solutions, and yes, some real talk about why your current approach might be sabotaging your success. Let's start with the uncomfortable truth about your brain. That gray matter between your ears wasn't designed for modern student life. Evolution shaped our brains for survival, not for memorizing the periodic table or writing 20-page research papers. This creates what neuroscientists call a motivation mismatch. Your ancient brain is constantly scanning for threats and rewards. When it sees a textbook, it doesn't register academic achievement. It sees no immediate reward and no immediate danger, so it basically shrugs and says, "Netflix it is." This isn't a character flaw, it's biology. The dopamine pathways that drive motivation are literally wired to prioritize instant gratification over long-term goals. But here's where it gets interesting. Recent research in cognitive psychology has identified something called the motivation paradox. The harder you try to force motivation through willpower alone, the more your brain resists. It's like trying to fall asleep by telling yourself to fall asleep. The conscious effort actually creates the opposite effect. Dr. Sarah Chen's groundbreaking study at Stanford revealed that students who relied primarily on willpower showed decreased performance over time, while those who understood and worked with their brain's natural patterns saw sustained improvement. The difference wasn't in their intelligence or dedication, it was in their approach. So what does working with your brain actually look like? First, we need to talk about something called cognitive load theory. Your brain has limited processing power, kind of like your phone's battery. Every decision you make, every distraction you resist, every task you switch between drains this mental battery. The traditional advice of just focus harder is like telling someone with a dying phone to use more apps simultaneously. It's not going to work. Instead, we need to become strategic about how we use our mental energy. Here's where the science gets really practical. Researchers have identified what they call keystone behaviors, small actions that trigger positive cascades in other areas. For students, one of the most powerful keystone behaviors is something I call environmental pre-commitment. Instead of relying on daily willpower to resist distractions, you design your environment to make good choices automatic and bad choices difficult. This isn't about perfect study spaces. It's about understanding how environmental cues trigger behavioral patterns without conscious thought. Let me give you a concrete example. Instead of keeping your phone on silent nearby while studying, put it in another room entirely. The physical barrier eliminates the need for constant willpower. Your brain stops receiving the micro hits of anticipation that come from potential notifications, allowing deeper focus states to emerge naturally. But environmental design is just the beginning. The real game changer is understanding something called the progress principle. Harvard researcher Teresa Amabile discovered that the single most important factor in sustaining motivation isn't external rewards or punishments. It's the perception of meaningful progress. Your brain is constantly asking, "Am I moving forward?" If the answer is unclear or feels like no, motivation plummets. This is why traditional studying often fails. You spend hours reading without clear markers of progress, leaving your brain confused about whether effort is paying off. The solution involves what I call micro-milestone mapping. Instead of vague goals like study for 3 hours, create specific, measurable checkpoints that your brain can recognize as wins. Transform Read Chapter 5 into Identify and explain 3 key concepts from Chapter 5 in my own words. This subtle shift activates reward pathways throughout the process rather than only at the end. Your brain starts associating study sessions with regular dopamine hits, creating a positive feedback loop that sustains itself over time. Now let's address the elephant in the room: procrastination. Traditional advice treats procrastination like laziness, but neuroscience reveals it's actually an emotion regulation strategy. When faced with tasks that trigger anxiety, overwhelm, or boredom, your brain instinctively seeks relief through avoidance. Fighting procrastination with discipline is like treating a fever by turning off the thermometer. You're addressing the symptom, not the cause. Instead, we need to understand what emotions are driving the avoidance behavior and address those directly. Research by Dr. Tim Peichel shows that procrastination often stems from task aversion, the negative feelings associated with starting or continuing work. The solution isn't eliminating these feelings, but changing your relationship with them. One powerful technique is called the 2-minute rule with a twist. Instead of committing to work for just 2 minutes, commit to experiencing the discomfort of starting for just 2 minutes. Tell yourself you can stop after 2 minutes if you want to. This removes the pressure of long-term commitment while allowing natural momentum to build. Most of the time, starting is the hardest part. Once you're in motion, continuing feels easier than stopping. But here's the crucial part. You have to genuinely give yourself permission to stop after 2 minutes. Otherwise, your brain recognizes the trick and resists even more strongly. Let's talk about energy management, because motivation without energy is like having a sports car with no gas. Your brain operates on glucose and requires strategic recovery to maintain peak performance. This is where most productivity advice falls apart. It focuses on time management while ignoring energy patterns. Neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman's research reveals that mental fatigue affects decision-making before you consciously feel tired. By the time you notice your focus slipping, your cognitive performance has already declined significantly. The solution is proactive energy management rather than reactive caffeine consumption. This means identifying your natural energy rhythms and aligning demanding tasks with peak cognitive windows. For most people, this is within 2 hours of waking, but individual patterns vary. Track your energy levels for a week and schedule your most challenging work during consistently high-energy periods. Recovery is equally important. Your brain needs genuine downtime to process information and restore cognitive resources. This doesn't mean scrolling social media, which actually increases mental fatigue. True recovery involves activities that allow mind wandering, walking, showering, light exercise, or even strategic napping. Here's something that might surprise you. Strategic boredom actually enhances creativity and problem solving. When your brain isn't being constantly stimulated, it enters what neuroscientists call the default mode network, where innovative connections often emerge. Finally, let's address the motivation killer nobody talks about: perfectionism. The pursuit of perfect performance creates what psychologists call approach avoidance conflict. You want to succeed but fear falling short of impossible standards, creating mental paralysis. The antidote isn't lowering standards but changing metrics. Instead of measuring yourself against perfection, measure yourself against progress. Replace "did I do this perfectly?" with "did I do this better than last time?" This simple reframe activates growth mindset pathways that sustain long-term motivation. Your brain is incredibly adaptable, but it needs the right conditions to thrive. Stop fighting against your natural patterns and start working with them. Design environments that support your goals, create clear progress markers, manage energy strategically, and embrace imperfect action over perfect inaction. Remember, sustainable motivation isn't about finding the perfect system. It's about understanding your unique brain and building personalized strategies that align with how you actually function, not how you think you should function. Your academic success depends not on having superhuman willpower, but on becoming the scientist of your own motivation. Subscribe to our channel for more insightful content. Don't forget to like and share this video with friends who might benefit from these strategies. Drop a comment below letting us know your thoughts. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.